General Electric is a stock that you recently initiated a position in. Last Friday, Bernstein came out and they downgraded the stock, saying that the valuation at just under 13 times was a little too high. Do you agree with that call?
No, actually, and in fact, we were buying on that downgrade. 2 weeks ago, the company reported earnings, and we've been in this name before, and we had sold out for a gain. And when I listened to the conference call a couple of weeks ago, it was really encouraging. All of the numbers across the board were better. But most notable to me was the industrial organic growth of 10%. That actually was the best of its peers. Rockwell, 3M, Dover. Dover is a great company, and they actually outgrew Dover in their industrial piece. So I actually think that they're starting to gain momentum there. Margins were also better than expected, and they're forecasting for them to continue to improve. And I think their backlog actually supports low double-digit earnings growth, which I don't think that people believe in yet. So this is a name that has some catalysts in the second half of the year. Again, it's better margin recovery. They're going to continue to gain market share in emerging markets. And then you have the cash distribution. The company said they're going to be aggressive in terms of buying back or raising the dividend. So we do expect, I think it's going to be a dividend sometime in the second half of the year. And they have an analyst meeting in September, which typically is, the stock kind of moves around a little bit, but it tends to actually outperform into that meeting.
You mentioned backlog. It was a bright spot in the quarter. What does that tell us, though, about the macro environment? What can we read through on that?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we all expected them to be really weak, and it was actually a little bit better than expected. And I think it points to the fact that they don't have a lot of exposure in Europe. Their GE Capital has some exposure still in Europe that they have to still run off and work down. But the industrial side, it's really emerging markets. It's really China. It's really Asia. It's Brazil. I mean, they're everywhere. And they also are, in the U.S. clearly, and I think that they're in the right spots in the industrial segment. Aerospace is certainly a big part of their business. Energy projects are huge, and they've been growing that business. So, they're in the late cycle businesses that are very attractive that I think can continue to work and move higher, particularly if we have a recovery. But even if we don't, you are seeing at least better improvement than where we've been.
I just want to touch on GE Capital, too, as well. I know investors don't typically love that business, but it has been improving. Where do you stand? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, with earnings up 31%, that's best in 4 years. So, they still are running off bad assets, bad loans. We understand that. That's what all the banks are doing, right? But I think that their capital position is very strong. Their tier one common, they're all at industry highs. So I think that it's getting better. It's not perfect. They still have more to do. But I think that they are focusing on continuing to shrink that business and really just focus on what they do best. What do they do best? They're an industrial company, right? That's what you think of when you think of GE, not a finance arm. So I do think that they're going, as they continue to do this transformation, you'll see less contribution from GE Cap, but you'll get the cash flow there, which is good, and you get to continue to execute and focus on the industrial businesses, where they're taking market share.
And then just stock price, do you buy it above 20 or do you wait for a pullback?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would have loved to have bought it at 19 or 18, but I think about 20 is okay. If it slips below there, I'm sure we're going to get some pretty ugly days. You might get it. I think that's where you buy. And our target is 25. I think longer term, you could probably see upper 20s, but let's just crawl before we run.
This market is
stock pickers market.
Stocks have rallied this year.
We're coming into a Monday where we're going to